Incredible 12-year-old's life-changing solution to 30-year debate revealed. You won't believe it. Emma stood at the edge of her front porch, the sun spilling golden light over the rolling cornfields of her small-town America. It was a bright morning, but her heart felt heavy. Today was the town meeting, the infamous gathering where dreams collided and hopes were dashed. She slipped on her gleaming sneakers, a fresh reminder of her mother's sacrifices, working tirelessly at 2 jobs just to put food on the table. Each step felt like she carried the weight of her grandfather's legacy, too, his stories of courage and service echoing in her mind as she braced for the battle ahead. The community had been split for 30 years over a debate that seemed as endless as the fields stretching around her. The crumbling main street desperately needed paving, yet without support, the farmers who had fed the town were barely surviving. Emma could almost hear the voices of her neighbors, passionate and raw as they argued. She imagined the former teacher's tear-streaked face, lamenting her spoiled fruits, and the farmer whose weathered hands told tales of a dying legacy. She felt a pull in every direction, her heart ignited with a burning desire to bring them all together. What if, instead of dividing them, she could unite them? Inspiration struck like lightning. Emma envisioned a grand town fair, colorful stalls showcasing local goods, fresh produce bursting with flavor, laughter bouncing off the asphalt. It would be a celebration of community spirit, an event where farmers and shopkeepers could thrive side by side. The idea was audacious, but it felt right, and she could see it materializing in her mind's eye. But then nature unleashed chaos. A storm unlike anything Emma had ever seen lashed down upon the town. Wind howled, trees crashed like dominoes, and the streets transformed into raging rivers. As the storm raged, fear gripped her chest, but it was not just fear. It was something deeper. She watched in awe as neighbors emerged from their homes, sharing tools, food, and laughter as they battled the storm together. It was the very essence of small-town America. Strangers turned friends, working side by side. Once the storm passed, Emma stood amidst the aftermath, her once bright vision fading as she witnessed the deeper divides exposed in the devastation's wake. The tension simmered anew, and she could feel the familiar rifts looming over her like gray clouds. She knew her town fair idea was only a beginning. Emma felt a new challenge emerge, uniting her community not just in celebration, but in resilience. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emma gathered her courage to present her idea to the council, the weight of every sacrifice she had witnessed pressed on her shoulders. Her palms felt clammy, and a tightness formed in her chest. Will her youthful determination bring about the monumental change the town desperately needed? She could feel the breath of the community hold in anxious anticipation, eyes focused on her. This was it. Emma took a deep breath, ready to speak, heart racing as hope flickered like a fragile flame. What she said next might just change everything. Emma stood at the front of the packed town hall, the room buzzing with murmurs and eyes darting between her and the council members seated at the long table. A wave of nervous energy surged through her, causing her heart to thump heavily in her chest. She caught a glimpse of old Mr. Thompson, a farmer who had struggled for years, his furrowed brow hinting at skepticism. Next to him, Mrs. Lee, the owner of the local grocery store, whispered to her neighbor, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Hi everyone, Emma began, her voice shaky yet steadying as she looked around the room. Thank you for letting me speak today. A chorus of nods and distracted glances met her as she continued. I know we've been fighting over the main street for so long, the paving and the farmers' needs. And it feels like we're just stuck. She hesitated, searching for words. Memories of the storm came flooding back, neighbors huddled together, sharing what little they had. That image stuck with her, igniting a fire in her belly. But what if we could focus on what brings us together instead? The silence in the room deepened, curious eyes trained on her. Emma took a breath, drawing strength from her mother's sacrifices and her grandfather's tales of unity. What if we held a town fair? A day where we show off our farms, share our food and spark some joy? We could come together not just as neighbors, but as a community. Glancing at the council, she picked up their reactions. Some members whispered to each other, eyebrows raised. Others leaned back, arms crossed, faces unreadable. Doubt lingered in the air, but she pressed on. It's a chance to help our farmers, showcase their hard work, and create a space where everyone, not just the businesses, but everyone in town, can thrive. Her voice started to gain strength. We could invite everyone, the shopkeepers, the farmers, even the artists from down the road. Imagine the laughter, the music, the sense of togetherness. A slight murmur ran through the crowd. Emma's heart raced. Maybe they were beginning to feel it too. Of course it won't be easy, but if we can come together like we did during the storm, we can do anything. Her gaze pierced through the room, locking onto Mr. Thompson's weary eyes. I believe we owe it to ourselves to try to create something that's about more than just our divided roads. A rustling noise broke her concentration. The council chair, a stern woman with glasses perched at the end of her nose, cleared her throat. We appreciate your passion, Emma, but have you thought about how to actually fund this fair? Our budgets are tight. On any other day, those words might have crushed her spirit, but instead they sent a spark of determination through her. I hadn't thought about the money yet, she admitted, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. But then a thought struck her. But we could ask for donations. Maybe local businesses could pitch in. We could even organize fundraisers. If everyone chips in, we can make this happen. The council members exchanged looks, and Emma knew she had ignited something, a flicker of hope in their eyes. But as the murmurs grew, she noticed that old Mr. Thompson stood up, his voice cracking as he spoke. And what if it doesn't change anything? He asked. The room quieted again, tension building in the air, each person holding their breath, waiting for Emma's reply. As she opened her mouth, ready to respond, the hope she felt suddenly twisted. What if her community wouldn't embrace this vision? What if, after all her efforts, they remained divided? Emma took a deep breath. She needed to answer honestly, but first she had to dig deep. The clock was ticking, and the weight of the town rested on her young shoulders. Would she give up, or could she rise above this challenge? And as the silence stretched, a new resolve built within her. What if I told you, she said slowly, that change starts with one person's voice, and that voice can lead us all to a brighter future? The air in the room shifted. Could this be the moment Emma had been waiting for? Would this spark the change she envisioned, or would fear hold them back once more? Emma's words hung in the air like a promise, and for a moment, the world outside the hall seemed to vanish. The whispers quieted, replaced by an intensity that crackled between her and the gathered townsfolk. Faces once skeptical had begun to soften, though doubt still lingered like a shadow. Mr. Thompson shifted uncomfortably. You seem bright, young lady, he said, his voice laced with a mix of admiration and skepticism. But you don't know how long we've been at it. We've tried everything. What makes you think this will work? Emma felt the warmth of her breath catch in her throat. The question loomed before her like a mountain. She knew this was it. The pivotal moment when she could either sink or swim. Because people want to have something to believe in, she replied, her voice steady now, bolstered by an inner flame. When we band together, we're capable of so much more. Look at what we did during the storm. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Old Mrs. O'Leary, sitting at the back, nodded vigorously, memories of that stormy night clearly etched on her face. She recalled how everyone had stepped up, sharing blankets and food without a second thought. Emma pressed on, voice unwavering. We didn't let our differences stop us then. We were just us. Tension hung like smoke, but Emma could sense the shift, the possibility kindling in those tired eyes. The council members whispered among themselves again, their expressions softening just slightly. The stern chairwoman regarded her closely, pushing her glasses up the bridge of her nose. What you're suggesting is a monumental task for a small town like ours. It will take a lot of organization, effort, and yes, funds. Emma nodded. I understand that. But think about what we could gain. A fair could revitalize our town, bringing in visitors and sparking business, and would remind us of what we can accomplish together. There was a ripple of energy, a few heads nodding in agreement, but Emma knew it wasn't enough. She needed to stir their spirits to draw them into the dream she envisioned. Look around you, she urged. gesturing wildly to the crowd. You've all put in hard work and love into this town. Every farmer, shopkeeper and artisan here has a story that deserves to shine. We deserve this chance. She's right, Mrs. Lee piped up from the front, her voice filled with conviction. We can't keep holding on to the past. We need something to unify us instead. A heartbeat of silence passed before Mr. Thompson spoke again. Yet his tone was different now, sizable cracks of hope breaking through his previous skepticism. You're saying this fair could bring business? And joy? I guess it's worth considering. Emma felt her heart soar. This was it. It was working. She could see flickers of interest sparking as others began to share quick glances with one another. Nods beginning to ripple like a wave through the assembly. Yet just then someone from the back shouted, but who is going to lead this? Who is going to take on the responsibility? The question sliced through the air. Emma's heart raced. She had no experience, no answers, yet everything in her cried out against despair. I will, she exclaimed, surprising even herself. I just need your support. Together we can figure it out. That was when the weight of what she said settled in. Could she really lead them? Could a 12-year-old orchestrate something this big? Emma's mind swirled with the enormity of it all, but deep down, the flame in her knew it was worth it. She could feel her mother and grandfather's spirit urging her on. As murmurs shifted within the crowd, a new fire ignited in Emma's heart, mixing with her fear. Could she be the catalyst? Could she turn a hesitant community into a united front? The room hummed with anticipation, and she could almost taste the possibility hanging in the air. Yet the shadows of doubt remained. As the council members glanced at each other, uncertainty still loomed. Would they back Emma's bold push for change? Would they finally step forward for a future that connected their pasts instead of severing them? In that charged moment, the only thing Emma knew for sure was that she had ignited something in the town. The question now was whether it would flame brightly or flicker out. The crowd held its breath as Emma's heart thundered in her chest. She exchanged quick glances with her friends in the front row, their wide eyes filled with anticipation and support. One part of her felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, the other part was ready to leap. Mr. Thompson finally cleared his throat, drawing everyone's focus back to him. All right, let's say we consider this fair. But you can't just pass the buck. It requires commitment, time, and yes, even pulling in volunteers. Who do you think will help? An uneasy silence settled over the room, like a fog creeping in. Emma glanced around, searching for thoughts to turn into words. We all can, she blurted out, feeling the pull of countless shoulders and hands that had worked tirelessly for the town over the years. We're all capable. Every single one of you has talents and energy that can help make this happen. A few murmurs erupted again, but she pressed on, her voice stronger, more commanding. Look, we've already seen what we can do together, right? Let us remember the Harvest Festival, how we came together to plan it in just a few weeks. And that was for just one day. Think how much more we could do with time on our side. Emma's imagination exploded with vibrant images of laughter, colorful tents, families exploring booths filled with art, games, and food. Joy wrapped around her like a cozy blanket, fueling her courage. The fair can be our event, a chance to show everyone who we are. It can be a weekend where we come together as neighbors, as friends. It's about connection. Mrs. Lee chimed in again, her voice growing stronger. I can help with the food. My pies always bring a smile. That one comment sparked a ripple of determination. Soon others started adding their ideas, building a chorus of enthusiasm that turned whispers into shouts. I can gather crafts from local artists. Let us set up games for the kids. I know how to market it. One by one, hands shot up, arms waving with offers of help and expertise. Emma felt the energy shift the shadows of doubt, giving way to sheer possibility. But still, in the corner of her mind, a question gnawed at her. Could she keep all these energies together? What if it fell apart? Her confidence wavered for just a moment. Would this wonderful surge die down like a fire without proper fuel? All right, we have ideas, the chairwoman said, eyeing Emma thoughtfully. But you still need a solid plan. And someone to oversee it. That was the moment the weight of leadership hit Emma again. Her palms felt clammy, her breath quickened. Could she do this? Maybe she wasn't ready. Then she remembered her mother's words, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing it anyway. I'll lead it, Emma declared again, a new determination flooding through her. The room erupted in a blend of cheer and surprise. Really? Someone called out. Yes, she said, feeling the warmth of her old friends and new possibilities surround her. Together we'll make this fair happen. The applause that followed drowned out any lingering worry. Heart still racing, Emma glanced at her friends, their faces reflecting her resolve and their shared dream, and felt a surge of warmth bloom within her. But just as excitement built to a crescendo, a voice broke through the joy. What if it doesn't work? A younger boy, his brows knitted tightly, stood to ask. Emma paused, caught off guard by the weight of that simple yet heavy question. Did they really believe in her? Would they follow if she stumbled? Before she could answer, Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his expression sober yet hopeful. Then we'll learn from it. But if we never try, we risk having nothing at all. We're in, Emma. Let us see what we can accomplish together. And just like that, a wave of energy shifted. Determination surged around the room, and hope rippled through them all, both fragile and fierce. But Emma knew this was just the beginning. As she stood facing her community, not everyone looked convinced. Some still wore the weight of doubt like an old coat. Emma felt a flicker of uncertainty. Was she really holding the weight of so many on her small shoulders? In that collective moment, she felt like a tiny ember in a windstorm, fighting to keep the fire alive. But she refused to extinguish. The sounds of excitement swelled, yet the shadows were still lurking. Would this hope remain lit, or would it flicker out like an unwatched candle? Emma had no answer. All she could do was hold tight to her belief and stir the flames of ambition. What lay ahead for her in this community was still unknown, but she was ready to face it, whatever it may be. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Emma felt like she was in a constant state of motion, her feet barely touching the ground as she dashed from one task to another. The fair began to take shape around her, and the excitement crackled in the air. Posters multiplied around town, vibrant colors beckoning neighbors to come together. But with every poster hung, every volunteer signed up, Emma felt the weight of her role grow heavier, pressing down like a thick blanket. She met with her friends every afternoon after school, dipping into a sea of notebooks and colorful markers, sketching out plans and ideas. They were an unstoppable team, fueled by a mix of youthful exuberance and a shared dream. Laughter burst from the group as they brainstormed silly games for kids or tossed around names for food stalls. Every moment was filled with promise, yet shadows danced in the corners of her mind. Emma, what if no one shows up? Sarah asked during one of their planning meetings. The question hung in the air, heavy and uninvited. I don't think that will happen, Emma said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. We have the whole town involved. Everyone here is excited. But doubt slipped in like a thief in the night. Each time Emma passed the fairground, she imagined it filled with families laughing, music playing, booths overflowing with goodies. Yet the flip side flickered in her brain, an empty field, echoes of silence where enthusiasm should bloom. What if all her efforts weren't enough? As days turned into nights, Emma's friends continued to rally around her, each bringing their skills to the table. Sam, a tech whiz, crafted social media posts that caught fire online. Mrs. Lee tirelessly baked pies, her kitchen a sweet-smelling hub of activity. And Mr. Thompson took it upon himself to make sure there were tables and chairs enough for everyone. She was buoyed by their support, yet the weight on her shoulders remained. Then one Thursday evening, she stood in front of her bedroom mirror, her heart lagging behind her racing thoughts. It was just a week until the fair, and the pressure had built to a boiling point. Could she really pull all these threads tight enough to weave a tapestry of success? With a sigh, she grabbed her journal, scrawling down her worries. She wrote about the anticipation buzzing in her veins, the fear twisting in her gut, and the excitement that still flickered like a candle in the wind. But in the haze of doubt, she suddenly thought of the little boy who had asked, "What if it doesn't work?" She paused, pen hovering over the page. "What if it does?" She echoed silently, heart pounding with a raw mixture of hope and uncertainty. It was a simple change in perspective, but it flickered like a flame, pushing back darkness. Maybe it's not just about whether it succeeds, she whispered to herself. Maybe it's about the courage to try. The next day at school was different. Emma seemed lighter, her resolve solidifying into something tangible. She stood up in front of the group again, determination igniting her voice. "Let us meet one last time before the fair. We're going to make this unforgettable no matter what." Energy bounced around her, and as they discussed the final details, Emma's confidence became contagious. Their excitement spiraled higher, setting off a chain reaction that brightened every face in the room. But as they wrapped up, Emma looked at the crowd of her friends. Each smile filled her with warmth, but in the back of her mind, she still heard the call of doubt. But how she felt wouldn't change what lay ahead. The fair was only a few days away. That night, Emma lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Anxiety danced around her relentless, testing her courage. As sleep tugged at her eyelids, she made a silent decision. Whatever happened, she wouldn't retreat. The fair was coming, and unbeknownst to her, it would challenge not only her leadership but also transform each person involved. The stage was set, the stakes were high, and a whirlwind of emotion and anticipation swirled just out of view. But what if when the time came, Emma found that she wasn't just leading a fair? What if she was leading herself towards something much larger? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. The day of the fair dawned bright and clear, the sun spilling golden light over the town like a blessing. Emma woke early, her heart thumping as if it were trying to escape the confines of her chest. It was finally here, the culmination of her hard work and the labor of her friends. A mixture of excitement and anxiety swirled in her stomach as she pulled on her favorite jeans and a bright red t-shirt emblazoned with the fair's logo. She rushed downstairs, nearly tripping over her own feet, and found her parents already up. The kitchen smelled of pancakes and syrup, but the fluttering in her stomach made it hard to eat. "Are you ready for today, Emma?" her mom asked with an encouraging smile, pouring her daughter a cup of orange juice. "More than ready," Emma replied, forcing a smile through her nerves. She practically inhaled her breakfast, each bite pulling her closer to the moment she had worked so hard for. But amidst the cheer, the niggling fear still sat in her mind, whispering doubts she tried to ignore. Once at the fairgrounds, Emma was greeted by a flurry of activity that took her breath away. Colorful banners waved in the light breeze, and laughter erupted from groups of children already enjoying the games. Emma felt a warmth spread through her as she watched her friends setting up booths, the pride swelling her chest. They embraced her exuberantly, their enthusiasm contagious. "Emma, look at this," Sam called, gesturing to the tech setup. The screen flashed with colorful images and exciting countdowns to games. Everyone's online and buzzing about the fair. The energy was electric. It amplified her spirit, and for a moment she felt like she could soar. But then her gaze turned to the field, and her heart sank. The magnificent setup seemed too vast. The thought of it being empty sent a chill through her. What if nobody comes? "Stop it, Emma," she scolded herself internally. "You've got this." She focused instead on getting things underway. With a determined stride, she moved to each booth, checking in with her friends, handing out last-minute tasks, and cracking jokes to lift spirits. They were all in this together. She could feel that bond strengthening with every passing moment. As the clock ticked down to the fair's opening, townsfolk began to appear. Families strolled in, laughter ringing like music, and Emma felt a thrill. She spotted Mrs. Lee's pie booth packed with eager customers and Mr. Thompson directing tables with his usual charm. "Hey Emma, thank you for all your hard work." A woman Emma recognized approached her, holding her child's hand. "We wouldn't have this amazing fair without you." The warmth in her voice wrapped around Emma like a hug, washing away her insecurities for a moment. As the fair officially kicked off, music blared, and the field buzzed with life. Emma's heart raced not with fear, but with exhilaration. They had done it. She watched wide-eyed as a line formed for the games. People laughed, kids darted between booths, each person's joy feeding her own spirit. But just as Emma began to breathe in the success, she saw something out of the corner of her eye. A small boy stood off to the side, tears streaming down his cheeks as he clutched a stuffed animal. Instinct kicked in. Emma rushed toward him and knelt down, a smile on her face. "What's wrong, buddy?" she asked, her voice soft. "I wanted to play the games, but I don't have any tickets," he managed between sobs. In that moment, something shifted within Emma. It wasn't just about the fair anymore. It was about every single person in it. Without hesitation, she reached into her pocket, pulled out a handful of tickets, and handed them to the boy. Here. Go have fun. The boy's face lit up as he thanked her and dashed off, and Emma felt a swell of joy unlike anything before. She glanced around, seeing the smiles, the laughter, and a sense of community growing strong. Each person here mattered. This wasn't just an event but a moment of connection. But as the day progressed, something unexpected happened. Emma's pulse quickened again as doubt crept back. What if the challenges were only beginning? Just then, a commotion erupted by the main stage and all eyes turned. What now? She muttered, bracing herself. Little did she know, the fair was about to unveil an unforeseen twist that would not only test her leadership, but ignite deeper revelations about herself and her community. Emma stood frozen, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding in front of her. Voices rose and fell like the waves of a stormy sea, confusion mingling with excitement. The crowd began to shift, moving toward the stage where Mr. Thompson stood, anxiously rubbing his hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, I need your attention, please. He called out, his voice steady despite the rising tension. Emma forced herself to step forward, heart pounding like a drum. She was used to organizing, leading, but this felt different, intense and precarious. A few familiar faces from her school were among the crowd, all eyes glued to Mr. Thompson as he rallied the townsfolk. Something unexpected has come up, he continued, and the murmurs grew louder. We were just informed that the annual pie-eating contest will not happen this year due to a last-minute issue with the permits. Gasps echoed through the audience, followed by a buzz of disappointment. Emma felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. The pie-eating contest was a beloved tradition. Without it, would the fair lose its spark? However, Mr. Thompson added, a hint of a smile breaking through the tension, we have a chance to turn things around. Emma here has been working hard all year, and I believe she might have a solution. All eyes darted to her, sparking a fresh wave of nerves. Heat crept up her cheeks as she stood there, unsure of what to say. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the whole town, and she could feel the weight of those expectations heavy on her shoulders. Hi everyone. She managed to mumble. We can still have fun. Maybe we can replace it with a cupcake decorating contest instead? The last part came out in a rush, but she saw a flicker of hope in some faces. Cupcake decorating? Mrs. Lee piped up from the back, her eyes sparkling. That sounds delightful. Emma's heartbeat quickened as idea after idea piled into her mind. It could be a blind taste test. Each contestant can create a cupcake without knowing what flavors they're using. And we could have a prize for the best one. Lively chatter erupted in the crowd, and enthusiasm began to ripple. Children giggled, adults began to brainstorm, and, for the first time since the news, smiles returned to faces. All right. Mr. Thompson clapped his hands together. Let's turn this disappointment into something unforgettable. Emma, you'll lead the organization with your team. At that moment, Emma found her footing, the initial waves of doubt washing away. She felt a surge of adrenaline rush through her veins. This was her moment to step up. Let's get cupcakes and baking supplies from all our local businesses. We can work together. She shouted, feeling every head turn, focusing on her. The crowd erupted into applause, fading fears replaced with lively enthusiasm. But as the excitement grew, Emma felt another wave of anxiety. What if it didn't turn out the way they hoped? What if she had taken too much on? She bit her lip, trying to shake the urgency clouding her mind. She knew they were just rearranging their joy, but the thought of things spiraling out of control loomed large. Still, in that moment of chaos, Emma locked eyes with the little boy from earlier, now happily decorating a cupcake, his hands smudged with colorful icing. Everything will be okay, she whispered to herself, bolstered by the thrill of possibility. And then a voice cut through her thoughts. Hey Emma, wait. It was Sam racing her way, panic etched on his face. You won't believe what just happened over at the tech booth. With her heart pounding anew, Emma turned her focus back to him, ready to face whatever awaited. What could possibly be unfolding now? She braced herself, the tension palpable. Emma spun around to face Sam, breathless with anticipation. His eyes were wide, revealing a mixture of fear and excitement that instantly drew her in. Sam often had a flair for the dramatic, but today he seemed genuinely on edge. What's wrong? She asked, her brow furrowed. You look like you've seen a ghost. He gestured wildly toward the tech booth, where cables and screens flickered beneath a makeshift canopy. They just found out the projector isn't working. No slideshow for the history exhibit. It'll ruin the whole event. The mounting pressure hit Emma like a tidal wave. First the pie-eating contest and now this? The fair was supposed to be a celebration. A moment to bind the community together. But it felt like everything was unraveling before it even began. A quick glance at the crowd revealed that everything Sam said rang true. A few concerned whispers were audible as the buzz of excitement began to fade. But we need it, Emma protested. The projector is vital for showing the town's history. It connects our past to the future. Exactly. Sam agreed, the urgency in his voice rising. But we don't have time. The event starts soon. They have no backup plan. Emma's heart raced. Chaos hummed around her, and she could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down again. But then a spark ignited in her mind. Wait. Sam, my mom always talks about how much fun she had with storytelling before we had technology, right? What if we do it differently this year? A flicker of confusion crossed Sam's face. What do you mean? Instead of relying on the slideshow, we could ask people from the town to share their favorite memories. She suggested, excitement buzzing in her veins. We could have them come up on that stage and tell their stories. We can even have kids be the narrators. It'll give it a personal touch. As she spoke, Emma watched Sam's expression shift from alarm to intrigued consideration. That actually sounds amazing. But we do need people to volunteer quickly, and coordination will be tight. Right. We can call out to the crowd now, Emma exclaimed, her plans rapidly forming. You could help me gather names and we'll set a time. Let us make this a community effort. Before Sam could respond, she turned toward the stage. A blend of nerves and excitement twisted in her stomach, but she pushed through. Everyone, she called out, her voice rising above the rest. We need you all back up here. The crowd turned their attention to her once again, eager and curious. We're going to make the history exhibit special. Instead of a slideshow, let us do live storytelling. We all have stories to share about our town. And I know you have some great ones. Who wants to participate? A pause followed, then a wave of hands shot up, a cacophony of voices clamoring to join in. Emma's heart swelled, a tide of hope washing over her. Maybe they could not only salvage the fair, but turn it into something more memorable than ever. Sam grinned, his fear momentarily forgotten. This is gonna be great. But we need to organize the schedule and set a time limit for each story. Let them share for 3 minutes. Emma suggested, feeling the adrenaline surge again. As Sam began jotting down names and ideas, Emma felt a warmth growing inside her, like they were building something together. This was more than just a fair. It was a community reuniting, drawn together by their shared history and passion. But just as excitement blossomed, a shadow crossed her mind. What if some stories should never be told? What if deep-rooted secrets emerged, buried tales of heartache and conflict? With anticipation in the air and doubt lurking just at the edges, Emma's resolve rallied once more. Let us make this day unforgettable, she thought. Yet in the midst of celebrations, would there be unexpected revelations that could shift the town's memories forever? She inwardly steeled herself as the first volunteer stepped forward, ready to share. The crowd hushed, their eager faces turned toward the stage in a collective breath of expectation. Emma glanced nervously at Sam, who was busy sorting through a clipboard filled with names. They had 20 volunteers ready to share their stories. Would they be prepared for what might unfold? Okay, first up, Emma called out, her voice steady despite the flutter in her stomach. We have Mr. Thompson. The moderate applause was reassuring as the town's elderly historian shuffled onto the stage, leaning on his cane. His face, framed by silver hair, lit up as he reached the microphone. The anticipation crackled like static in the air. Hello everyone, he began, his voice warm and shaky. I'm here to share a story from when this town was just getting started. You know, a long time before the pie-eating contests and fairs. As Mr. Thompson recounted tales of the town's founding families, Emma felt the whole crowd leaning in, captivated. They were no longer just spectators, they were participants in history itself. But soon his story took a turn. There was a disagreement over the town's first mayor. Some wanted a man named Jacob, while others were convinced a woman named Mary could do a better job. His eyes twinkled as he spoke. It was fierce, folks. Families divided over who should lead, all because Mary was seen as unfit. But let me tell you, she proved everyone wrong. A wave of whispers rippled through the crowd. Emma exchanged glances with Sam. Was that the first prick of tension she felt? What could have been a simple tale now seemed charged with meaning. The applause erupted again as Mr. Thompson finished, and Emma felt a spark of hope. This storytelling concept might just work. One by one others took the stage, sharing sweet, sometimes funny, and occasionally painful tales that molded their town. Each story unfolded like layers of a community long hidden. But then as the sun dipped lower, casting an orange glow over the crowd, a woman walked to the front. Emma recognized her immediately, Mrs. Carter, the town's beloved librarian. Still something seemed off. Emma felt a chill run down her spine, the atmosphere shifting. My story, Mrs. Carter began, her voice faltering slightly, is about love lost and found. She paused, her eyes scanning the crowd, and Emma held her breath. It's also about the painful past that came to define us. The crowd was on the edge of their seats. You see, there were people here who once had a very different vision for our town, a vision torn apart by fear and misunderstanding. The town isn't just about pie contests or fairs. It was built on dreams, some bright and shining, others burdened by shadows. At that moment the town felt small. Every secret and unaddressed conflict hovered in the air, intertwining with the sweet stories of joy. As she spoke, Emma felt the unease creeping back in, knotting her stomach tightly. You see, Mrs. Carter continued, sometimes the stories we don't want to remember shape us more than the ones we celebrate. There are truths buried beneath decades of silence. What was she implying? Emma felt a pit form in her stomach. Was the fair just an exercise in nostalgia? Or were they now crossing into treacherous waters? A murmur grew in the crowd, and the cheerful tone of the event suddenly wavered. Emma exchanged a glance with Sam, whose jaw tightened. They had sparked a fire that might rage out of control. Let us embrace our history, Mrs. Carter urged. Even the dark parts, they're just as important. Could they handle what lay ahead? What if those long-forgotten tales tore at the threads binding the community together? As people began to whisper and exchange worried glances, Emma realized the fair might reveal more than she had ever intended. What if the stories that brought them together also had the power to tear them apart? And then, like the weight of the sky about to burst, one man stepped forward, a harsh look in his eyes. I couldn't stand by and listen without saying my piece. Emma's heart raced. What would he reveal? Would it spark unity or division? The man stood tall, towering over the crowd as waves of tension swept through those gathered. Emma felt her heart pounding, an uncertain flutter in her stomach. She exchanged worried glances with Sam, who looked equally apprehensive. What's your piece, Paul? Mr. Thompson interjected, his voice steady yet laced with concern. Paul, known for his biting remarks and unyielding opinions, had never been shy about sharing his thoughts. The truth is, we have a history that isn't as rosy as we like to pretend. This fair and all this community spirit, it's nice, don't get me wrong, he snapped, his voice cutting through the moment's warmth. But we're also living in a town divided, aren't we? I see the shadow of that every day. Gasps rippled through the crowd, eyes darting between Emma, Mr. Thompson, and Paul. She braced herself, feeling a wave of anxiety crash over her. Memories of the arguments at town meetings resurfaced. The fractures that lay just beneath the surface had the potential to veer this celebration into chaos. What do you mean? Mrs. Carter pressed, her brow furrowed, looking slightly defeated. Look, Paul continued. There are families here still holding grudges over land disputes, business competition. We celebrate but ignore how we've torn each other apart. This fair is just a distraction. Emma took a shaky breath, her heart pounding. A lifeline to the past was not what she needed now. But we need to move forward. We need to remember the past, yes, but we can't use it as an anchor. She countered, her voice wavering yet full of determination. Maybe you young folks can't understand that yet, Paul replied coldly. This community is built on unresolved issues, and no pie or cupcake is going to change that. Doubt hung thick in the air, like smoke from a dying fire, and Emma felt urgency pulse through her veins. Had they lost their chance to unify just when their message was about to resonate? The The crowd shifted uneasily, the buzz of excitement morphing into tension-laden whispers. Then, an older woman in the back raised her hand, recognizing the palpable disappointment swirling. "We buried our pain, Paul. But maybe now is the time to dig it back up." Her voice cracked with emotion, but she persisted. "This event is a chance to finally address those grievances. Together." Emma squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, absorbing the shift. This woman had recognized the core of the issue. Perhaps the fair didn't just have to be a joyful event, but a launching pad for catharsis, an opportunity to finally air out the frustrations that lay long buried. With a determined clarity, Emma stepped forward again. "You're right," she said, her voice rising above the murmurs. "This community deserves to heal. Let us tell our stories, not just the happy ones, but the painful truths too. Let us face this together and find a path forward." The crowd fell silent, a spark of realization illuminating their faces. Paul, visibly taken aback, stood in contemplation. A young girl near the front nodded. "I'd like to share what's been bothering me, if that's okay," she began hesitantly. Suddenly, like a dam breaking, other voices chimed in. "Me too," someone else yelled, emboldened. Another man stood. "There are things we ought to address." With every shared story, the weight of the past began to lift. Emma felt the tension rhythmically dissolve, like waves ebbing away from the shore, replaced by a collective resolve to heal. They spoke candidly. Troubled histories of lost crops, family feuds that had stretched over decades, and misunderstood intentions painted in darkness. Every comment stirred vulnerability, a tapestry of raw truth woven together, some painful, some insightful. As the tales unspooled, Emma caught glimpses of connection rising anew. The pain didn't tear them apart. Rather, each story revealed crooked threads that could be woven back together. When the last person finished recounting their experience, Emma stood before the crowd, exhilarated yet awed. "We did not only share our burdens today, we began to lift them together. Imagine if we keep doing this in our lives, our town. What if we don't let misunderstanding create barriers anymore?" A wave of applause erupted, echoing her thoughts. Encouragement sparked newfound hope in the community. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, tears glimmering in his eyes. "My friends, let Emma's words guide us. We are here because we want to be, and today we'll choose to bind our wounds together as one." As the crowd erupted into confirmation and cheers, Emma felt their spirit come alive, brighter and fuller than she had ever imagined. They had created not just a fair, but a moment of transformation, of facing their past and embracing a hopeful future. She turned to Sam, who was grinning from ear to ear. "You did it," he exclaimed, overwhelmed by the joy pouring forth. And as Emma's laughter joined the chorus of happiness, she realized she was no longer just a child attempting to unite her town. She was becoming a leader, a voice guiding them towards healing and connection. As the sun set, painting the sky in gold and crimson, Emma understood that the path forward would take time and effort. But together, hand in hand, they could repair the fabric of their community woven tighter than before. And with that realization, the best was yet to come. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories. Don't miss out. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this momentum going. I want to hear your reactions. Comment below about how you felt connected to Emma's journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means everything.